Hello guys and welcome back to my YouTube channel. This video is going to be pretty interesting, exciting because it's a completely new format and I'm actually so excited to talk to...
Nate from Spanish with Nate.
Yoo-hoo! It's so crazy talking to you in person and like filming a video in person just because I feel like for a lot of people because of the pandemic we got so used to recording everything remotely, you know, via Zoom, all those collabs and stuff like that. I have never done a collab in person. So now like just talking to you like this in person feels amazing, surreal. So yeah. I'm so happy to be talking to you today.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you the first question is why are you in Mexico?
That is a great question. I am here for all the chisme. I am here mainly to be with my girlfriend, believe it or not. She's from Mexico City. And yeah, we actually met during the pandemic because of YouTube videos, which is crazy. But anyways, yeah, I moved out here to be mainly with her, and then, you know, also as you know, I teach Spanish and I make YouTube videos about Spanish, so it just kind of made sense. And it was time for me to move out, so I'm like, I'm just gonna go to Mexico. And,
yeah. And before you decided to move to Mexico, did you already speak Spanish? How did it work for you, like this language learning journey in Spanish?
Great question. Yeah, so I started learning in high school. So I had already been learning for essentially 9 years, which is crazy.
Yeah.
So by the time I got here, I was, you know, really comfortable, and I'm from Southern California, and we have a lot of Spanish speakers there. So I felt like home when I came here to Mexico. So the transition was really smooth for me. Of course, there's weird little things I had to get used to, like el gas, or like la basura, you know? Or the camote whistles, like the...
Yeah, I know.
Like, what is that? And it's like some guy selling sweet potatoes. You're like, what the heck?
Yes, I know. When I learned that the guy was selling sweet potatoes, he was doing that. Guys, we're gonna include all of the like videos for you to understand who are not from Mexico City, because I know it's gonna be hard because when I first moved here and I like started hearing all of these sounds and music and like the whistles, and I was like, what is going on?
Yeah, it's a melting pot of sounds, or like colchones, you know, it's like the Mexico City national anthem.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, so I had already learned Spanish, basically. I had lived in Spain for 3 months. I studied there in Sevilla, which is the best part of Spain.
Was it in university? Or?
Yes, that's correct. At community college, actually. It was my first year of college, and I went out to Sevilla, and I studied there, and I lived there with a host family. I lived with this Spanish woman who was like in her 70s, Mama Carmen. She was amazing. She was so funny. She like, every day we'd come home from school, and she'd be like sitting in her like reclining chair like this, like on her phone, and I would open the door slowly, and I'd kind of peek in. She'd be like, te he visto, and I'm like, oh, you know, she was so cute. Anyways, yeah, so, you know, I had been learning, but most of my learning was done in the US, you know, like 95% of all the Spanish I've learned to this point was at home in the US.
Okay, and did you notice like any difference in terms of how people speak Spanish in the US versus how they do here in Mexico City?
Absolutely, and of course, as you know, like it varies between, you know, regions here in Mexico, for example. Like people in the north kind of have they're more singing, whereas like people in the south are much different. Back home in the US, like for example, you hear more, and you hear it in some places in Mexico, but like lonche, troca, things like that. Whereas here, like if I say troca to my girlfriend, she's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, oh, right, like camioneta. She's like, oh, okay, like what? Like troca, you know, that's so like US thing.
So American.
Yeah. Or like there's a funny YouTube channel, it's like pero like, and that is like something funny you hear in back home in the US, or like if I hear a Spanish speaker and I'm speaking with them like, you know, straight up, like they're Mexican speaking, but then I hear them say I'm like, oh, they're probably like living in the US, or like so, like or like so, you know.
Yeah, that's actually, it's very cool that you like mentioned it, because I remember when I was working on my American accent and I try to like learn more things about the American culture, I learned about this like how Americans think when like when they have to think, and I was like, it sounds so obvious that like, oh, you make these sounds, but like for me and my native language Russian, we never like make this specific sound. For us, it's a little bit different. For us, we usually say nu, Like when we think about something like so, instead of all of this, we say no, what, stuff like that. So it's completely different. And once I started learning more about these little things that you guys use, I was like, oh, I feel like now my English is becoming like more American thanks to those little moments.
Yes, I mean, I remember when I first started saying este, like instead of saying and that was like, I was like, oh yeah, I've
the
made
next
it now.
step.
Like, you know what's a funny story is that one time I was talking to my friend Morissette, who's Mexican American, and we're talking. She speaks to me in English. This is in high school. Then she switched to Spanish, and then switched back to English, and then switched back to Spanish. She did that. I was like, I've made it. I'm like, if a native speaker is like switching, that's how you know you've like kind of gotten into the club. So because like back home, like people who grew up speaking English and Spanish, that's like kind of the thing. Yeah, you know, I was at the supermercado comprando unas tortillas, and then I like saw my buddy, you know, you were just like, what?
Spanglish.
Yeah, exactly, the Spanglish. When someone like spoke to me in Spanglish, I was like, I made it.
Yeah. Wow, this is so cool.
Yeah.
So what was the most difficult thing for you about learning Spanish? What was the thing you struggled with the most? Maybe something that you only realized once you started dating your girlfriend, because you started interacting in Spanish more. Yeah, what was, maybe there's something that you're still struggling with right now.
That's a great question. I think using the subjunctive in the past tense. So like, you know, si yo no hubiera conocido a mi novia, no viviría en Mexico.
Oh my God.
Like, if I hadn't met my girlfriend, then I wouldn't live in Mexico. Like, that was really hard for me. And also, like, sometimes, like, understanding when certain words you'd think would be masculine would be feminine, or vice versa. So, like, el agua, right? Because you can't have the double a sound. So, la agua, you can't say it, el agua, right? It's el agua.
Sí.
But then it's weird because you wouldn't say el agua frío, you'd say el agua fría.
Yeah.
So that was like, for a while, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, oh, I can't.
Yeah, I remember when I first started learning about like all of those like masculine and feminine like the stuff in terms of nouns in Spanish. I remember I struggle a lot with the word problema. Because I always want to say la problema because it ends on a, and I'm like, it's so like dumb. Why should it be el problema? And I always had to like remind myself, no, tengo muchos problemas, no muchas problemas. So it was funny,
Yeah, totally. Sometimes like it's funny because I think something that a lot of students struggle with, and I definitely did, sometimes you just have to accept that this is the way it is, which for me, I was like, I don't accept it. Like, I need to know why.
I need to understand, exactly.
Yes, whereas I'm like, okay, sometimes sometimes I try to explain something to students, and they're like, you know, I still don't really understand this, but I'm just gonna accept that this is just a language and like just move on.
Exactly. Yeah, so what is helping you right now in terms of Spanish? Are you actively learning the language, or it's more just like whatever happens, happens?
That's a great question. Honestly, no. And I haven't been for years now.
The same thing for me with English, actually.
Sure, yeah. At this point, it's just living the language. I mean, especially living in Mexico. I mean, of course, that's like so helpful. But I will say, I mean, as you know, here in Mexico City, it's very easy to just communicate with like expats or people living here.
Yeah.
But I will say, this might sound kind of silly, but honestly, having a Spanish-speaking partner has been a game changer. Because you learn all the weird phrases and all like the little nuances that you might not pick up, you know, through just like listening to music or talking to random people. But like when your girlfriend says to you like amigui, you're like amigui. She's like, yeah, it's like friends, but it's like cute, you know? You're like, oh, like okay, you know, like amigui.
Like
all right.
the voice you're making.
Yeah,
it's like friends, but it's cute.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, having a Spanish-speaking partner is huge, but I think at this point it's really just living the language, which I even tell my students now. I'm like, hey, you know, like how can you start living the language as soon as possible?
How?
Doing stuff that you actually enjoy, right? So like if you're driving, instead of like listening to music in English, try listening to music in Spanish, or you know, make it that it's something that is just like, if you had been born and raised in Mexico, you would be listening to music all the time. You'd probably see the news in Spanish. You know, the people around you would be speaking Spanish. So how can you recreate that as a non-native speaker?
Yeah, absolutely. It's also something that I always do every time I'm learning a new language. How can I surround myself with this language as much as possible? Totally. And of course, as you said, yes, like if you're dating a person from this culture, a person who speaks this language, if you guys only communicate in this language, obviously it will help you improve your language skills a lot. But also something that I told Nate, and something that I only learned like a few months ago, is probably some of you guys watching this video, maybe you are dating a person from a different culture who speaks a different language. Try not to make this person your teacher. Like, don't think of this person as, okay, my boyfriend, my girlfriend, they're my teacher now. You know, they have to teach me this language, because they're not. They're not your teachers. They're your partners, right? Because you're in this romantic relationship with them. So once you like not change the roles, but like understand like what roles you guys have. So that's also something that is gonna benefit your relationship a lot, and it's gonna calm you down a lot too, because sometimes when you're in this kind of relationship, you start thinking, okay, I have to teach this person my language and this person has to teach me their language.
Right.
No, I mean, if it happens, think of it as a bonus, right? It's nice, it's a bonus, you're learning something new, and it's amazing. But obviously, if you want a teacher, go get a teacher.
Totally. Call me, guys.
Yeah, call him, text him. Yeah, so have you ever thought about learning another foreign language?
Yes. So I'm very big on not trying to learn a bunch of languages, because the thing is, I find lots of languages interesting. You know, I was in Europe a couple years ago. I was in Italy, like kind of getting by because I knew Spanish. It actually really helped. Or like Portuguese, or like German or French. I don't know. Like all these are very interesting, and I love learning about the new languages and the new cultures that come with them. But my whole thing is like, okay, how often am I realistically going to be speaking this language? And am I interested in the culture that comes along with it? So for me, that was Mandarin Chinese. Now, I've been trying to learn Mandarin for like a couple years now, and I've just literally been the most lazy language learner ever. Like, don't even ask me my method, guys, because I've just been so lazy.
I don't have a method.
Because I'll literally just like, I'll go on this app called Hello Chinese, which is fantastic, by the way. I'll go on there and I'm just like, oh yeah, 我喜欢吃, I don't know, and I'm just like, that's great, I speak Chinese, you know? And like, that's kind of what I've been doing. But yeah, I've been learning Mandarin Chinese, so fun. The grammar is very simple, but the tones are like really,
The grammar is so simple in Chinese.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's so easy. If you guys are thinking of like what language to learn next in terms of how easy it is to learn the grammar, Chinese, very easy. But obviously there are other things about Chinese that are extremely hard.
Yeah, like the tones. Like I remember going to community college, there was a lot of native Mandarin speakers that went to my school. And I remember I made friends with this guy. And I was trying to say the word video, which I'm gonna butcher it again, but it's like supin or something like that. And he's like, no, you're saying food. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, no, it's supin. And I'm like, that is literally the same thing, dude. He's like, no, it's supin and supin or something like that. You know, and I'm like, what?
Okay, got it.
But it's fun. I love it. I love the challenge. And
yes.
And like I always tell my students, you know, we just talked about in the video we just filmed on my channel, by the way. You should go check it out. Like I was just telling you in the video we recorded, it's really important that you view language learning as something like fun and a lifelong thing, because the second you take it really seriously and you try to put like a deadline on yourself, it just sucks the fun out of it. And then like, yeah, it'll be cool that you can speak the language well, but ultimately you'll have just like missed out on all the fun. Like it really is about the journey, not the destination.
Yes.
And I still tell people, as a Spanish teacher and someone who's been learning Spanish for 10 years, I'm like, I still consider myself a learner. And I think I will always be a learner. And that's like really cool. That's really fun.
Exactly. Yeah, that's how I think of myself too. I'm a learner of English, even though like I haven't been actively studying English in a while. However, I actually still learn some words here and there. I still use Anki to memorize some words in English just because I like it. I just like using Anki. Like, and again, as you said, make sure it's still fun, right? If for you Anki is not fun, then don't do it, right? So like you don't, as I always say, like my channel, I feel like the same thing with Nate, our channels are there to tell you and teach you a lot of different strategies. And what you take from those videos is something that you know will work for you. You don't have to like take every single strategy and then think, okay, this didn't work, I hated this. It's great. It's actually the part of the learning process, and you realize that, okay, for example, I didn't like using Anki, right? Let's say it's fine, then it's just not for me. Or I love using Anki, so thank you for recommending this app to me. You're just, trying to use a lot of different resources.
I love that because students will say to me like, well, Nate, I heard this guy say that listening is more important than speaking, but you said speaking is more important than listening. I'm like, well, in my opinion, yes, and that worked for me, yes, but you're the student, you're the one learning. So like you said, go out and see. You're like, okay, actually, yes, I'm learning more effectively this way. Fantastic. It's like if you're a visual learner, great. If you learn by listening, great.
Exactly.
Cada quien. To each their own,
Exactly. Yeah. There's so many different strategies you can implement, so many different things. And also something that I've noticed too is sometimes for different languages, I might be using different strategies. Do you think you're gonna wanna try something new for Mandarin Chinese?
Good question. I mean, I think what I've realized with Spanish is when I speak to people and have conversations, I feel great and I feel motivated.
Perfect.
So I'm trying to do that more with Mandarin because the other day I was at a hot pot restaurant with my roommate who's Chinese American, and I'm like, how do you say like enjoy your meal, like buen provecho? He's like, 好吃好喝. I'm like, great. I'm like, literally, I walk in the restaurant, everyone, 好吃好喝, like everyone, they're like, oh wow, this white dude is like speaking Chinese, this is cool, and like I'm feeling good, and then like that kind of makes me feel more confident. So then, I think that's something I need to do more because it's really motivating. Like I had this 30-minute italki lesson a couple months ago, and I didn't know how much I was gonna understand, whatever. And she's going in, she's doing her thing, and I'm like, wow, I'm like actually understanding you. I feel a little English here and there, but I was like, I'm actually doing the thing, and that's really cool. So I think speaking more for Mandarin will be important for me to like stay motivated and excited.
Yeah, because I like that like what makes you excited, what makes you motivated, and what makes it fun for you. Because I know that for a lot of people, speaking is extremely scary.
Totally.
So for them, like if they're gonna start speaking from the very beginning, it's gonna be very intimidating, they're gonna feel very scared. So if this approach doesn't work for you, maybe find something else. But I think there are people for whom speaking, like starting to speak, put yourself out there, like go to a restaurant and start saying, have a good meal and stuff like that, like to all the people, if it works for you, and I know there are people like that. So I just know there are so many like videos where people say that language learners are afraid to speak. And it's not really true. Like not every single language learner is afraid to speak. You are a language learner and you're not. Like you get your energy from that. And if you get your energy from reading, if you get your energy from listening to rap music, I don't know, then be it, it's great.
Totally. Yeah, and actually, what you said about like, people are scared to have conversations, speak with people, very normal. It's one of the most common things I hear from my students. I always tell people, okay, see if you can start off slow. Because at the end of the day, we learn languages to speak with people. I mean, maybe you have a slightly different reason, but at the end of the day, that's kind of the whole idea, right? So like connect with people and have conversations. So I always tell people, okay, like just start by talking to yourself. When I first started learning Spanish, I was like a psychopath. I would like be in the shower and be like having these like full-blown conversations with myself. Oh yeah, I want to cook the fish, and I'm like, saying this like weird stuff to myself.
I want to cook the fish.
And like in my head, I'm like, what? Am I like crazy? Like I have this weird thing which I don't talk about often, but like I don't know what it is about
exclusive content?
Yeah, this is exclusive content. Just like breaking news. Yeah. But I will like latch onto things, and it will just be on repeat in my brain. So like I'll hear something that I like, or like for whatever reason catches my attention, and it will just, it'll be in my brain, and it will just like get ingrained, just like a song gets stuck in your head. Same thing with me, and it'd like be weird. Like I'm sitting on the toilet, I'm like in the shower, like just like anywhere, and I'm like thinking like, and they're like, Nathan, like who are you talking to? I'm like, talking to myself, like like a crazy person. But I always tell students, if you are struggling with motivation and feeling nervous and speaking to people, just try to talk to yourself at first. It sounds silly, but actually trying to talk to yourself helps you learn new vocabulary. It's like, how would I say that?
Exactly.
And then you're like, oh, okay, I'll look it up. And that kind of takes the pressure out of it because it's literally just you. Then I tell people, okay, go online, find a language community online, like a Tandem, Discord, wherever you can find. Go meet people and just text them and like start to build your confidence up that way. and then do like voice messages, like hola, ¿cómo estás? You know, all that. And then maybe do little calls here and there, and then little video calls, and then you go out in the real world and speak with people. And you can like slowly build your way up to that. But starting off like a psychopath and talking to yourself is a great way to start.
Yeah, but I like what you said about like this helps you understand what vocabulary you need. And like for example, for you it's speaking. For me, what really helps me find out what vocabulary I need is writing, because I genuinely like writing. I like journaling. So when I journal in like English, Spanish, whatever each language I'm learning, I'm like, okay, I don't know how to say this word. And then I think about it, do I know how to say like more words that are related to this word or maybe the topic? Because recently I realized that I'm lacking vocabulary when it comes to hair, like hair treatments, hair textures and styles and stuff like that. So I was like, okay, I need like a lesson about it. Maybe I need to watch a few YouTube videos about it. I need to ask my teacher to prepare some materials for me. And yeah, and writing helped me identify that problem, or being like in real life situations, because I actually went to a hair salon and I couldn't explain anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, but anyway, when I write, I still can like be, okay, I'm just writing about my day to day. So like I went to the gym, I did, I don't know, push-ups. How do you say push-ups, right? So like all of these words, yeah, it helps me so much expand my vocabulary and expand my vocabulary in really good, useful ways.
Yeah, I love that. Like you say, right? Cada quien, to each their own. Like we each have our different ways, and like that's really cool, and that's kind of a fun thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So my final question to you, Nate, is gonna be like a what if question, right?
Okay.
So if you could speak any language in the world, or languages, which ones would you choose and why?
Gosh, probably Spanish.
You can already speak. Okay, it's good. Spanish. Okay. English.
I would say English too.
Okay.
I think it's pretty useful. Definitely Mandarin.
Okay.
Gosh, I mean, honestly, it would be every language. I know it's like a terrible response, but
Let's do 5.
Okay.
Let's do 5
I've
languages.
told people this for years now. It's like if I could have one superpower, it would not be flying or invisibility. It would be speaking every single language perfectly. That would literally, like, you would just be the coolest person ever. I would say definitely Mandarin.
Okay.
I think Arabic as well. So
Okay.
cool. Yeah, really widely used. Thai. I love Thai food. Oh my gosh.
So that's why you would like to learn Thai.
Yes,
because you love Thai
absolutely,
food.
absolutely. Like, I learned how to say cold water, like ice water, in Thai. So I swear to you guys, every time I go to a Thai restaurant now, I always try to say it, which I'm gonna butcher it right now. But it's like nam bien or something along those lines. They're like, oh yeah, can I get some nam bien? They're like, what?
You're like, I don't speak Thai.
They're like, dude, we're in Mexico City, man. Like, I'm Mexican. So Thai, maybe Greek. Greek is hard. I know, like
Greek is hard. I actually have a video on my YouTube channel, guys.
Yeah.
You can check it out later, where I tried to learn a foreign language in 24 hours. And guess which language I was learning? Greek.
So hard.
It was horrible. It
Yeah.
was like so hard. It's actually a pretty difficult language to learn.
Oh.
Originally I thought when I was doing this challenge, because I decided to like use like this random wheel picker situation online, so I just like inserted a bunch of different languages and I chose Greek too, and I was like, yeah, like if I get Greek, it's fine, it's not a problem. And then once I actually started to learn Greek, I realized that maybe I actually have like a bit of an advantage here, because my native language is Russian and some of the things there are similar. So I was like, oh, this letter is like similar to this Russian letter, like something like that. But I feel like when I was doing that challenge, my biggest takeaway was Greek is like a mixture of Russian and English and geometry. So it's like, yeah, so it's like those 3 things, and I was like, okay, it's hard.
Yeah, it is hard. I mean, literally, okay, I went to Greece, and it is awesome, by the way. Greek food is better than Italian food. That's a hot take. That's a really hot take. I'm gonna get a lot of hate for that one, but...
I love my pasta.
I
love pizza.
I'm so sorry, everyone.
How about lasagna?
Yeah. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, okay, anyways, love Greek food. All I remember is Kalimera, Kalispera, Kalinikta, and Afkharisto or something like that. But I thought it was cool. I thought Greek was cool. Anyways, Greek, and then maybe Polish. I have Polish roots. And
You do?
Yeah, and it's weird. It's not that I feel like ashamed that I don't know Polish.
You should. I'm kidding.
Well, it's funny because,
kidding.
like, you know, my dad didn't grow up speaking it. My grandpa,
course.
like, kinda. So, anyway, so that might be cool as well. But anyways, that was a very long response to your question.
No, great. I think you actually, to sum up, Spanish, English, Mandarin, Arabic, Greek, and Polish.
And Thai. Can't forget Thai, all
okay,
right?
so
I love
the
Thai
food. The food. Yeah, we got it. Okay, so it's a little bit more than 5, but
yes.
it's fine.
Sorry,
7.
Guys, I'm so sorry.
5, yeah, 7 languages. Wow, great. Yeah. Thank you so much for the conversation. Thank you so much for being here. Yeah, for all your tips and advice. I appreciate it.
Gracias a ti.
Yeah, guys, if you like the conversation, you can also check out our conversation on Nate's YouTube channel, where I share a lot of things about how I'm learning languages, my strategies. It was an amazing conversation as well. So make sure to use the link below and check it out. Bye, guys.
Bye. Recording.
Yeah, it's fine. It's the exact same video.
Sorry. Okay. I know, guys. It's very exciting. This is the glamorous YouTuber lifestyle. Okay, I'm just gonna. Okay.
Barely moved.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, boom! Oh, okay. All right. Okay, should I do it all in Mandarin? Should I respond to everything in Mandarin? 大家好。我住在墨西哥。I just said 墨西哥. Boom! Okay.
Explosion!